We've worked our way through the Valley of Trials, adventured through the threatened troll area of Sen'Jin village, battled our way to keep Razor Hill alive, and saved the survivors from the flooding of the South Fury River. It's now time to finish up Durotar with the Dranosh'ar Blockade and find out what happens next in World of Warcraft. After you finish your dealings with Thonk and the survivors, it's time to head up to the Dranosh'ar Blockade. On your way through the canyon, you run into a goblin named Rezlak. Now he says he's one of Gazlo's boys, and I'm pretty sure this isn't the last time we're gonna hear that name. He's kind of a big deal. Rezlak says that his boss sent him here to Durotar to help out the orcs. He says everything's good, except for the caravans. He's having a really hard time keeping them safe. The last shipment was snatched up by Dustwind harpies located in Razorwind Canyon. He wants you to go back and retrieve 5 sacks of supplies that were stolen. Now Rezlak mentions that Gazlo told him once, Rezlak, there's one thing to know in life. If you want something done well, do it yourself. He also told Rezlak that anything could be done with a price. Rezlak can't deal with losing all the caravans and wants you to kill 12 of the Durotar harpies, which he doesn't mind paying you for. I mean, come on, he's a goblin. You really think he's gonna do this himself? He's got the coin. You've got the skills. So you head out to Razorwind Canyon, you kill 12 of the harpies, and you collect 5 of the supply bags. Then you return to Rezlak to report. He says he can breathe now knowing that the harpies won't be bothering their supply caravans anymore. He also thinks you're pretty good at what you do, and says you should track down his boss and Ratchet for some extra work. I guess we'll see what happens when we get there. After your dealings with Rezlak, you make your way to Gore the Enforcer. Upon arriving, you find out that Gore isn't alone. Standing next to him is Shin Stonepillar. Now you think these two would be friends since they're around each other a lot, right? Nope. Gore can't stand this guy, and it's just as bad the other way around. Shin doesn't agree with how Gore is running things. He says that his actions are hasty. He wants you to listen to his story before you go off and work with Gore. So he starts telling you a story about a wolf. To make a long story short, the wolf was lazy and didn't want to work for his food. He's tired of eating certain animals, so he sets his eyes on Kodo meat. He finds 2 Kodos fighting, waits for one Kodo to kill the other, and then once one of them dies, the wolf walks up to eat it. And just when the wolf is about to start eating, the living Kodo kills him. Okay. Shin says that hasty, lazy actions lead to ruinous results, and that we mustn't take shortcuts. He's been trying to tell Gore this for a while, but thinks that his Hellscream worshipping skull is a little too thick to understand. Well, Gore doesn't care, and he says that you should ignore everything that Shin says. Gore says that certain powers that be within the Horde demand that he keeps Shin around. He also says that Shin, a thrall-loving Farseer, truly sees no further than the border of this hut. And here's the kicker, Shin doesn't do anything about it. That's the last you ever deal with Shin. Gore put him in his place quick. Speaking of Gore, he's heard of you as the one who handled the Burning Blade situation in the south. He knows this because he mentions that he has ears in all kinds of places and that word travels fast. According to him, the flood wiped out one of the Burning Blade's camps located in the southwest. In that camp was a goblin named Fizzled Darkclaw, and his body is still there, just floating in the water. Now Gore says we're better off without him around. He mentions that Fizzled Darkclaw had an orb in his possession that the Horde is very interested in. He doesn't know why there's an interest, he leaves that to the Warlocks. All he knows is that he needs that orb. Apart from that, you find out that the army needs drinking water. Gore says that the elements brought plenty of water when the cataclysm hit, but the dead thunder lizards are sitting at the bottom of the canyon, making it difficult, if not impossible, to get any water because of the electrical discharge. He wants you to help the grunts by attaching 8 Mageweave tethers to the thunder lizards down in the bottom of the canyon and get them out of the water. That's right, you get to jump into some electrically charged water and not the grunt. Because why not? You're the person that helps everybody. The last thing that Gore tells you is about the elemental conflict in the west. He says that the elements are at war with one another. Normally he wouldn't mind, but he needs that area clear to secure a border shipping route to and from the Barrens. He wants you to go out to the west and kill 12 of the elementals and then report. From here, you head out to go take care of the elemental situation, stop by the flooded canyon and help the grunts by tethering the thunder lizards, and find Fizzled Darkclaw's body in the same canyon. Now there's one problem with the situation. You can't pry the orb from Fizzle's hand, so you have no choice but to cut it off. After all that, you return to Gore. He's really happy that the elementals are taken care of. He's also glad that you took care of the thunder lizards in the water. Leaving them in there to rot would have made the water completely undrinkable. What really tickles him though, is that not only did you retrieve the orb from Fizzled Darkclaw, but you brought back half of his arm. He then goes on to tell you that a shaman named Margaz knows more about the Burning Blade's corruption, and that it would be wise to pay him a visit. He's camped out to the east between the coast and Dry Gulch Ravine. Gore also mentions that your services are requested in Ashara, north of Orgrimmar. We'll have to check that out sometime in the future. So you head out to the southeast to find Margaz the Shaman. Upon arriving, he tells you that he's heard of your exploits in Durotar. He mentions that the Burning Blade has infested a cave east of Orgrimmar known as Skull Rock. Inside, they perform vile rituals and burn their flesh with searing collars. Margaz believes that the cultists attune themselves to demonic powers by wearing said collars. But to confirm this, he needs to have a collection of them to study. Margaz wants you to collect 6 searing collars from the cultists in Skull Rock. So you head out, you find the cave, you kill the cultists until they drop the collars that you're looking for. Then you head back to Margaz to report. Margaz says that he'll be able to uncover the secret of the Burning Blade with these items that you've collected. After attempting to unveil the truth with his powers as a shaman, he can't. He says that the collars you brought him are powerful demonic implements, and that divining their origin is beyond his skills as a shaman. He says that we need a warlock to study them. He wants you to visit Arnek Fireblade, located in the Cleft of Shadow in Orgrimmar. He's a warlock that professes to use his powers to thwart demons. We'll see if he can help us out. Before you leave, you notice an interesting individual standing next to Margaz named Vecnag. He says that his boss Spiketooth sent him to look for help and supplies. He looks you over and realizes that you're not a merchant, but you probably could help him out. He wants you to visit Spiketooth in the southeast near Deadeye Shore. Oh, and he also wants you to tell him that Vecnag sent you so that his boss doesn't think he's just slacking off, even though he's just standing around, doing nothing. Slacking off. So you make your way to Spiketooth and find him standing next to a crashed cart. He's pretty upset that Vecnag sent you without telling you that he needed wagon wheels, nails, and maybe even some rations. Anyways, midway through the conversation, Spiketooth mentions that he has some gladiators. 3 to be exact. He has Ghislaine the Naga, Griswold Hanniston the Worgen, and Gar Icehorn the Tonka. Spiketooth starts talking about his first gladiator, Ghislaine. She's lost 3 of her last fights and might need a tune-up. Having said that, he thinks that even you are stronger than her. Griswold Hanniston is the second gladiator on display. He was found hanging around the Northwatch soldiers and wants you to fight him just to see if he's worth keeping around. His last gladiator is his prized possession, Gar Icehorn. Spiketooth wouldn't normally keep a Tonka as a captive because of their close relationship with the Horde, but this one's a traitor. He was exiled by his tribe and caught stealing supplies from Valarmok in Ashara. I'm pretty sure we'll hear more about Valarmok later. And finally, he was sentenced to death by the axe. That was until Spiketooth had his wallet in hand and bought him up. He's Spiketooth's strongest gladiator and bets you a fistful of silver that you can't beat him. So you make your way around to each of the gladiators, challenging them one by one, and after you're done winning each fight, you report back to Spiketooth. He's really impressed with you. Doesn't say much about Ghislaine. I think he's more disappointed in her than anything. Says he'll keep Griswold around just because he's cheap to feed. But he's really salty when it comes to Gar. He hands you the silver as promised and tells you maybe you should get lost, because he might revisit his policy about keeping Horde as slaves. Like he could really turn you into a slave. But you take his advice and head out to Orgrimmar to visit Arnek Fireblade. Hopefully we'll be able to learn more about the Burning Blade collars that we found at Skull Rock. Upon arriving, you find out that Arnek is a pretty friendly guy. He's curious as to where you got the collars and proceeds to take a closer look. Arnek tells you that he's been searching for sources of demonic corruption within the Orc society ever since the last Great War when the Burning Legion was defeated. This collar, which definitely belongs to the Burning Blade, confirms his fears. He says that your role in this tale is nearly complete and wants you to go to the far watch post on the border to the Barrens in the west. Once there, you'll find his assistant Ak Zeloth and find out more about the secrets of the Burning Blade. And that wraps it up for Durotar. Looks like we'll be venturing into the Northern Barrens as we dive deeper into the quest lore on the Horde side. Also, thank you to everyone who's subscribed to this channel. I can't wait to do more episodes. I also want you to know that I opened up a Patreon account. Some people asked me if I had one, and honestly, I've never done this before. So if you'd like to support this channel on Patreon, please click on the link below. Also, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit that little bell icon so you know when the next episode is posted. Please share this with any of your friends that you think would get a kick out of this, and we'll see you here next time when we discuss what happens next in the Tales of Azeroth.